Any more special for you considering your history, your father, and you grew up kind of close to campus?
Well, there's obviously some things to that, and my dad was at Tarleton for 44 years, and coached there, taught there, and so I grew up in those field houses, and I was kind of his shadow growing up as a little boy, and so. And then our oldest son graduated from Tarleton, played at Tarleton, graduated from Tarleton, and but throughout the years I've gotten to play a lot of people, a lot of great friends, and across the sideline from me. And so this will be another one of those games. I mean, obviously we want to go out and we're going to focus on us, focus on us as a defense, and just getting better. And obviously we got to be better game 2 than we were game 1. So that's our big focus right
Coach,
now.
when you see that photo, were you starting at running back for them?
I'm going to tell you right there, that number 34 is a guy named Tally Neal.
Okay.
And he played linebacker for my dad.
Yeah.
And Tally Neal was probably the best linebacker that ever went through Tarleton State University. And so I wanted to be just like him. My dad was number 27. He said, "Do you want to be 27 or 34?" And I picked 34. and so, but that's the kind of, as a little boy, that's what I got to go do. It was a lot of fun.
Coach, you talk about improving from week 1 to week 2. What is the focus for you this week to try and do that?
Well, I think, some of the big focuses, we had some opportunities to get off the field early. And, we actually, at the end of the day, we were pretty decent on third down, stuff like that. I think our bigger focus right now is winning on first and second down from a defensive standpoint. We're going to have to sit there and win in the early down so that we can get them in the predictable situations. And so, it's a learning experience for me. I think we know a whole lot more about our football team right now, especially us from a defensive standpoint, than what we knew on this day last week. And so, right now we're just going to keep chipping away. There's little things to peck at, and we can't go out there and focus on the whole gamut of everything. And what's the most controllable things right now, and let's get control of those and get better at them.
Looked like you guys did a pretty good job tackling, Coach. Were you pleased with the way you guys tackled?
For the most part, that's always, everybody across the nation, every defensive guy in the nation worries about game 1 and what kind of tackling they're going to have. Because they don't, we don't do a whole lot of, full to the ground tackle and all that business. And this style of defense that we do run, there's going to be a lot of perimeter things, a lot of one-on-one and the open field tackles that we got to have. And so I thought for the most part, you're talking about our safeties and corners and guys that are, having to fit the perimeter and make those open field tackles. I thought for the most part they did a decent job and was pleased with it.
Talk about open field tackling. D. Winters had a big play on 3rd and 12 against Colorado. Miller Bradford had a couple big stops as well as one-on-one. What did you see from those two guys as far as leadership and then play on the field?
Well, the things that we've been expecting through practice and what we've gotten to see, and you don't really know until you're really going to get in live action. They kind of brought to the table. We kind of expected that and needed that out of D. We need that out of Nook. I mean, Nook plays a very important position for us, and it's the most cerebral position on the field for us. So he's going to be put in a lot of different situations. And, he had a couple really not game-saving, but touchdown-saving tackles. And that he has to get on the ground. And so, between the two of them, I thought they did a really good job, but everybody else has their job to do, which allows them to make those plays.
Another injury.
Go ahead, Steve.
There's another injury to Thomas. Obviously, the linebacker group is kind of taking on some hits. How does that challenge you and the rest of the team with the depth being tested like that?
Well, we, and that's why we rep as many as we do. And because we had to get them ready, you never know what's going to happen at this level of ball and the number of games that you play. And so we got a lot of guys that got a little bit of battle test in them. They're going to get more battle tested as we move on. And, the big deal is right now we are getting a little bit thin at the linebacker spot. We can shuffle some dominoes around a little bit if we need to, and but don't feel like we're there quite yet.
What's the role? I mean, you had a really good breakdown, I think, earlier in camp, like the role of the safeties. What's the role of the linebackers in this defense?
So the role of the linebackers in this defense is really what we're trying to simplify it for really the front 3 and then the next level 3. And so you're talking about your D-line and your linebackers. You got 5 DBs on the field, so you want to make all your adjustments and things with them. Obviously, there's adjustments and checks and things that we have to do with those 3 linebackers and D-line as well. But when you start playing hats down in the box and things of that nature, you need to play fast. And so we want to take a lot of thinking off of them and let them react and don't get paralyzed by analyzing things. And so The biggest deal is pulling your trigger when you see it and make it very simple. If we can't make the play, then make it spill. We want it to bounce to the perimeter to get to those DBs and things of that nature. And so that's kind of a little bit of what we were seeing the other night when it would bounce for us.
Coach, another guy playing an important position, Dominic Williams at nose tackle. What do you think of his first college start? I know we're building him up a little bit, but man, he's making some plays out there.
The kid is making some plays out there. That kid went out there and he knows that he belongs, and he really does. And obviously he's a special talent for a 17, now 18-year-old young man, just had a birthday. And for an 18-year-old young man, he knows that he's got a lot of stuff that he still has to learn. And man, he tries to go and put another little notch in the quiver, so to speak, every time we walk out to practice. The thing that's really cool about him is that he knows that he has something special. He's been blessed with a gift. But he's also been blessed with the gift of work ethic and hunger to be coached. And, as long as he keeps that, I don't think there's another person in the nation that could coach him better than who he's got right now.
You've got a lot of guys rotating last week along the defensive line. What did you think of them as a unit in the game last week?
I thought as a whole they did a really good job. Especially when you're sitting there running an odd front, you're going to have to rotate quite a few. And, we're a little bit different than what we looked in the spring, and thank goodness. And so I thought there was a lot of guys that stood out. Timon Mitchell, he was a guy that really stood out to me through the course of the game. And obviously after, getting to watch it after the game and kind of see what type of play that I really hadn't gotten to see out of him, through fall camp. But you can tell that he's had a lot of good experience.
Coach, there's been a lot of talk about Bo Allen, the transfer from Kentucky at Tarleton. But those guys up front protected him pretty well, and they've been consistent the last couple of years. What is it about that offensive line that you've seen from them?
Well, they got a lot of guys returning, all but one right now. And so I think as a whole, as a unit, they work very well together. And, they had the big quarterback from last year that they did a very good job with. And all of those guys being there. Now here they are. They got one transfer in from ULM, playing right guard for them. The rest of them are there, and that really helps that guy right there because they can really lead him and help him and carry him on and kind of put him on their shoulders. And so, the biggest deal for them, I think, is just how they work so well as a unit. And from the run game, pass game, both standpoint. Obviously, Bo is a heck of a quarterback, and remember him in high school and all those things. And so we'll get tested for sure.
And they're pretty big at wide receiver too, right?
Yeah, they got a lot of length out at wide receiver. They got a guy or two that can take the top off if they need to, and then they've got some extraordinary length. They got one that's standing about 6'6" right now that they're going to throw up the fade ball to. You kind of get to see some of them on ESPN Top 10.
Hey, a phrase that seems to have developed this week is "focus on us." What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing that we have control of. I can't control what Tarleton's doing, not doing, and what they're going to bring or not bring. Obviously, they played one game. We played one game. They're still trying to figure out what we're doing, and we're still trying to figure out a little bit about what they're doing. But at the end of the day, we're going to come out and we're going to see a few things that are different. The biggest thing that we have control of is what we do and how we play the game. And so we go out and we play our style of football and everything, then we should be able to go and take care of business. And that's our full intention and plan.
Does that keep you guys from giving somebody too much credit or overlooking somebody? Does it just eliminate them?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you go on to the next game, I think the biggest focus is going to be on us. And then you go to the next game after that, somewhere down the road, we're going to play the Big 12 champs, defending champs. I think the biggest focus there is going to be what do we do? And, because we can't control what they do. And so we've got to go and control what we do and focus on us.
You guys played 70 guys against Colorado. From your perspective, when you get so many young guys on defense to get some game experience, how big is that going to be down the road?
Oh, that's going to be huge for us. And, to be able to get some of those guys in the game and still in some crucial situations, honestly. And that's the bigger deal. A lot of those guys were not going out in any mop-up detail or duty or anything like that. They were going out in still some crucial situations. I don't know that game the score was indicative, in my opinion, of how the game really was. And, so they got put out and thrown into the fire pretty quick, and I thought they handled it very well.
Coach, when you talked about linebackers earlier, you talked about moving around some pieces. Is Is that moving around amongst the linebacker group, or possibly some guys moving down to linebacker? Or
Well, I think you got to look at both. You got to look at all options, especially when you start, taking on some injuries. And then, unfortunately, you got to look into the future too. Hey, if we were to lose this, then what's your next move here? And if that's shuffling within the room, then we'll shuffle within the room, and we'll look at those. If that means that we got to move somebody down or stand somebody up, then that's what we'll do as well. Our deal is to, put the best 11 out on the football field, and if we got to change a few things and change the way that some of our thinking and stuff, then we can do that as well.
We'll go 2 more if you have them.
You
Well, they-
excited to get out in front of this home field fan base?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was just sitting there talking the other day, to some of the guys, Malcolm and Kelly and Paul Gonzalez and those guys that have been here for a minute, and just said, hey, tell me what I can expect. I want to know what it's like. I'm excited to see the environment and to get out there and be at home for once here.
Will they look the part when they show up Saturday?
I think they really will. And, when you start looking at their receivers and you start looking at their offensive line, and they're going to have some really scat backs, and they're rotating about 3 of them that I think there's not a nickel's difference between all 3 of them. They use them in a little bit different roles sometimes. But when they step off the bus, I think they're going to look exactly the part, no doubt.
Thanks, Coach.